Hello, I'm Dylan.
And I'm Keon.
And this is Trust Your Doctor, that podcast where we canine one of our own characters, because this week we watched Rendition.
Written by Doris Egan.
Directed by Billy Gerhardt.
And aired on July 15th, 2011. I'm just going to be going with the stars dates, I guess, because they have the BBC date and the stars date on the wiki here. But these came out on Stars before they came out on BBC One.
Yeah, well, we've always used the date of first airing, regardless of what TV station it aired on in the past, so no reason to stop now.
Right. It's just that in almost everything we've watched on this podcast and Inevitable, a classic sci-fi podcast, check that out, and Zenith the Blake 7 podcast, check that out, we've watched on the BBC. Except for a few shows on Inevitable, most of them actually.
And the Doctor Who TV movie.
Oh yeah, true.
Man, I can't wait for all the inevitable comparisons we'll draw between this and the TV movie, both of which are classically British television shows written by Brits for an American television station.
Doris Egan, the writer of this episode, actually isn't British though. She's American. She, as we looked up before starting the recording, she's worked on shows such as Dark Angel, Smallville, and House.
What is Dark Angel?
I don't know. I think I've heard of it, but I don't know exactly what it is.
Set in 2019, this series chronicles the life of Max Guevara, a runaway genetically enhanced super soldier who escapes from a covert military facility as a child. In post-apocalyptic Seattle, she tries to lead a normal life while eluding capture by government agents, etc., etc., etc.
Sounds very generic.
Well, it aired in 2000. Maybe it was the first of the genre, you know? It's only 43 episodes. We could totally do it for Inevitable. It's created by James Cameron.
Spend a year on Dark Angel.
How many Dark Angel fans do you think are out there? Well, Dark Angel apparently gave Jessica Alba her breakthrough role, you know, that famous movie star / actress, starring in such great hits as Sin City, Machete, and Spy Kids, all the time in the world.
Well, back to Torchwood. Back to what we're actually here to discuss.
Ostensibly.
Yeah, I know this podcast is already, long since become an excuse to just build discussions around other things about, random tangents and just other stuff we have on the brain, I guess, but...
The closer Trust Your Doctor gets to imploding, this is something I was thinking this week, the closer we get to shutting this down, the more I wonder if all of those tangents will just start to make their home on our other podcasts, thereby reducing their quality instead of increasing the quality of everything, as we would hope it would do.
Yeah, like we're just, Trust Your Doctor is just some sort of jail that we condemn, like all the stuff we don't want on the other podcasts. And we'd just be opening the gates, kind of like how in this episode they just opened the gates to Oswald Danes and just gave him free reign.
It was really more like opening the elevator doors rather than opening the gates, but...
Yeah, they really gave him the keys to the castle, the keys to anything. I was going to make a keys to the car reference, but I mean, he was actually invited onto Oprah. So maybe he did get a free car to reference that prehistoric meme that I'll put in the show notes.
Prehistoric, yeah. Look, my favorite meme to come out of the Oprah show is that gif that I have absolutely no idea like what the original context is, but it's like it's Oprah on screen with her head back pointing to the audience and yelling something, and the captions just go bees. And then it's just shots of the audience with like these tiny little bees imposed over them swatting at the audience. Like the bees were the prize for the audience.
Maybe it's a Wicker Man tie-in meme with Nick Cage going, "No, not the bee."
In order to advertise the movie, Oprah Winfrey just gave all of her audience members bees. No, but on the topic of this episode, I really liked this episode, mostly. I basically really disliked everything with Oswald Danes, but everything else I really liked, so...
Yeah.
This is solid, let's say 20% of the episode there, but...
This will probably be a discussion then at the end, because I thought this episode was mostly just really boring.
Interesting. No, I thought everything on the plane was just great. Very Apollo 13, which, yeah, this will be a discussion for later, because we need to actually explain what happens.
It starts right where the last one left off. Gwen and Jack and Reese are being taken to a plane to be taken to the U.S. by Rex Matheson.
Yeah, they're involved in a rendition, which is an actual word, I found out. Well, I mean, okay, hang on. It's obviously a word. I just found out that it also has this meaning that this episode claims it has. The practice of sending a foreign criminal or terrorist suspect covertly to be interrogated in a country with less rigorous regulations for the humane treatment of prisoners.
You're just Guantanamoing people.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. I mean, they even say it on the plane. Rex is like, I think Jack asks what's gonna happen to them, and he's like, "Well, you're gonna be interrogated, of course."
And they're like, you can just ask and we'll just tell you what we know, which is nothing.
But where's the fun in that?
Reese gets... Rex is basically like, we don't need Reese. He wasn't part of Torchwood. Take him away, boys.
He was a big part of the Children of Earth incident, though, so, their loss, I guess. And Reese's gain, since he didn't have to go through any of the hell that they went through on the plane.
Yeah, but in a way, I think this is kind of Russell T going, giving them a baby was a bad idea. Now, somebody's got to take care of the baby while they're out there, and I guess it's gonna be Reese because everybody loves Gwen more than Reese, right?
Torchwood spinoff. Everybody hates Reese when the sitcom.
I would watch that.
it too.
The sitcom set during Miracle Day where no one can die and Reese has to take care of the baby while Gwen is in America saving the world.
Look, I'm not saying that I would love a post-Torchwood set sitcom about Gwen and Reese, and their family of 2 as Revolution of the Daleks, or 4 rather, them plus the 2 children.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, hang on.
2 children, so Revolution of the Daleks revealed they also had a son, as well as the daughter that we see in this episode and the last one. But yeah, I mean, I would watch that, actually. I said I wouldn't. I wasn't saying that I would watch that, but I actually would, and do say that I would watch it.
My brain broke trying to parse that sentence.
But yeah, Reese does sort of just get canined here, where they find this sort of reason to be like, well, Reese isn't really going to be a part of this.
Right.
As they did with K9 and most of Classic Who that he was in, not most of the entire series.
Yeah, because they realized that they never had anything for K9 to freaking do in any episode. Because they were like, what they never defined what K9's powers, so to speak, actually were. He was the epitome of the sonic screwdriver problem, because he could just literally do whatever they needed to solve the problem.
Well, it was also this thing of if you remember back in that era of the show, it was really if there was more than one companion, which there really wasn't other than K9 at the time, the mid 4th Doctor era, it was really only one companion did anything per week. The other 1 or 2 that were there were just they did nothing.
They didn't really know how to handle it.
Yeah. And I think the only time... I can't even remember now. So K9... Yes, K9 was in Warrior's Gate with Romana 2.
Didn't he leave with Romana 2 in Warrior's Gate? Yeah.
Yes.
Because there were two canines. One of them left with Leela when she stayed on Gallifrey, the bombed-out wasteland of her dreams. And then the next canine, which was actually the third canine, left with Romana too, if I remember correctly.
Yes, that is correct.
Great. Never forget that one season that, what's-his-name didn't voice K9, and they never explained K9's, like, very noticeable voice change from season to season.
Yeah, John Leeson.
Yeah, John Leeson.
Was it John? Was his first name John? I have to look it up. Yes, it was. It was John Leeson. Yeah. Can't believe I forgot.
Who was the other person who voiced K9? Who took over for him for that one season?
I have no idea.
With the whole, well, there was a whole contract dispute of some sort. David Brierly. Okay. I kind of wanted to say that, but I didn't want to, like, make a fool of myself. So it's a good thing I looked it up to confirm.
Right. And it was like, yeah, I mean, just to put a cap on this K9 stuff, it was like, K9 was created by Bob Baker and Dave Lin. And it was like, their stories were the ones where K9, like, actually had a role in the story. All the other writers were just like, they just didn't know what to do or didn't want to do anything with K9.
Yeah, and thanks to them creating K9 and due to the intellectual property rights rules of the BBC at the time, that's what gave us the Australian spin-off TV show K9.
Right.
Which apparently aired on Disney XD. Huh. K9 podcast when? It's only 26 episodes.
Yeah, I mean, someday. We could, I mean, maybe when that K9 versus Omega movie comes out, finally.
Hasn't that, wait a minute, hasn't that, like, been in the works, quote unquote, for like 3 to 4 years now? It
was supposed to come out in 2017.
Okay. That's what I thought.
It's not out yet.
Oh, yeah. As of 2018, there have been no casting announcements.
Oof.
Wait a minute. On the 9th of September 2018, it was announced on the official K9 Facebook page that a new multi-million-dollar series was in development under a partnership with a, quote, major US-UK company, unquote, prior to the release of the feature film. The film is to be set in space, similar to Guardians of the Galaxy. What? Further information was promised in early 2019, but this time has since passed with no further information forthcoming. Ooh, Wikipedia is going hard on K9. Ouch.
Delayed replay.
Steven, you know you have to. You know, this is right up your alley.
Delayed replay is a podcast done by Steven, a friend of ours who...
A friend of the podcast, Steven.
Right, who he covers movies that... I'm just spoiling the premise here. He covers movies that were supposed to have come out but didn't, but he covers them as if they did come out. Dylan and I have been on it a couple times. You'll find a link.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. We've been on it
notes.
a couple times.
Yeah.
I did an episode on Jungle Cruise because it had The Rock in it. That was my sole reason for choosing to do that.
Anyway, back to the matter at hand, I guess.
Yeah, so Rex gets him on the plane, and then we like smash cut to, in the most awkward time, to the like CIA agents watching what's his name, Oswald Danes' execution on like some sort of live leak-esque site that I guess someone just like uploaded the video to.
Yeah, was that... No, I thought they watched the interview first, or maybe it was this.
No, they watched the execution first, based on my notes.
Yeah.
They watched the execution first, then the TV interview is after... Captain Jack makes the snide comment about America having the global cultural hegemony.
Right. Yeah, it was this sort of music video remix of his execution, which, yeah, I guess at the time, you know, those Songify things were pretty popular online. 2011, 2010, sort of prime time for that, so... Most of the time it was just turning memes into songs, though, and not, like, turning some guy's execution into a song.
Yeah, it's a little bit tasteless.
They even mentioned that on the episode, but the one guy is just like, nah, this is great.
He's like, this song slaps. And also they're watching them on like company computers at the CIA. Don't you have a job to be doing?
Well, they take a jab at the CIA when Gwen and Jack are being brought onto the plane, where someone, I forget who, was like, the CIA can't just like come into other countries and exert their own power or something like that. It wasn't as obvious as that, but it was something along those lines that I thought was just sort of a rib there at the CIA.
There were a lot of comments in this episode that, just hit different in 2021. Especially there's a line, Vera has a line later that's like, if we sit back and assume this will just pass, we'll have a disaster on our hands. And I was like...
Yeah, where she goes like, we need to radically restructure the I forget what exactly she says.
The like medical response, basically. The benefits of hindsight, I guess. Except not really. We all knew if we didn't do anything, it would go wrong. Anyway, getting ahead of ourselves.
Jack asks Rex what they're going to do to them, and this is when he says that they're going to interrogate them when they get back to the U.S. Rex is also still in like serious pain. He goes into the airplane toilet to check on himself, and he's still in severe pain. He calls what's her name, Dr. Juarez, and tells her to bring him medicine when he gets to the airport. Painkillers.
Yeah, smuggle him some drugs, dog.
Yeah. Which she then sort of uses this information to come to this breakthrough a little bit later, or it's at least part of it.
Mm-hmm. So
Jack then he talks about the morphic field.
Right.
Which is, he gives the example of like primates on an island learning to use tools at two separate islands that have no contact with each other at the same time. And he says that's what's going on here. It's not the fact that nobody can die, and it's not any of that. He's more interested in the fact that it all happened to everyone at the same time.
Yeah. I think the theory, and I think Jack even says this, that the theory wasn't very popular, let's say, or it wasn't believed by a lot of people in the field. But that it's basically the only way to explain what happened on Miracle Day, because he points out, and no one's realized this before this, that it wasn't like a sequential thing, people not dying. It happened to everyone on Earth at the same time, like instantaneously at the same time, which means what was the exact
morphic
term?
Field?
Morphic field, sorry, is the only explanation as to how this could happen.
Right, and morphic fields, I didn't look this up, but I believe they're like, it's a real idea at least, right? It's sort of like ley lines, where it's like, it exists in the real world. So like Torchwood didn't make it up.
No, yeah, I looked it up, and there's a lot of research into it, but it's apparently mostly the brainchild of some guy named Rupert Sheldrake.
Sounds like some sort of... okay, I won't make the... Okay. It's a very British name. That's all I'll say.
So, after he tells Rex this, we actually completely somehow missed the most important one-off character of the week, Lynn Peterfield, who joins Rex on the plane. She's also with the CIA. So once Jack tells Rex about the morphic field, she sends a message to someone who we discover very shortly is Brian Friedkin, head of the CIA, basically saying, "Study morphic field?" ?
Right, and as that is happening, Esther is actually in his office talking
Right.
about, I can't remember,
Rex.
Rex.
Rex. Because I think, like, either Rex didn't call her or, like, something about the information he sent her or the information she has on him is not adding up. So she went to Brian to get some more information about it, basically.
He largely, I believe, tells her to buzz off, though.
Pretty much. He does say, she says that she is a good friend of Rex's, and Brian is like, good friend, you get along well. You kind of get the sense that he's like implying that they have a sexual relationship, and that Esther responds in the most naive way possible, just going, yeah, we make a good team. So he just goes, I guess I'll keep that in mind. And that comes into play a little bit later.
Right, right.
Oh, I think the thing was she was asking if she could join Rex on the Torchwood. Yeah, that was it. Because she gets a message from Rex that says Torchwood in custody, and she goes to Brian to ask if she can join Rex on the Torchwood case,
Right,
basically.
which is what clues him in to, like, or what prompts him to sort of add her into, I guess, the hit that they were trying to carry out.
She has some kind of cringeworthy dialogue about how, like, the email that they got fascinates her
Yeah, it's
because it came to all of them and revealed
yeah, it's
Torchwood,
like
I
one of those
guess.
job interview things where it's like, yes, I am passionate about like something totally like boring and just inane and
Why, yes, I am passionate about Torchwood.
yeah. It's like, well, why do you want this? Okay, we don't have to go into it. Again, I was gonna make a jab at like warehouse jobs and stuff. It's like, yes, I am passionate about packing boxes type thing. But okay.
I can pack boxes with the best of them. I'm a gold medal boxer. I have
Speaking
my
of
Amazon
people,
X-ray fun fact of the week here. Sorry for interrupting. I'm just
okay,
going to
no,
get it out of the way. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off because it kind of sucks this week. So Wayne Knight plays Brian Friedkin. He also plays Newman in Seinfeld. The Amazon fun fact of the week was completely unrelated to Torchwood. It was that Newman's first appearance was in the pilot episode of Seinfeld. Off screen, he tried to commit suicide by jumping out his window, and he was voiced by Larry David off
oh
screen
wow,
before they cast Wayne Knight in the role. So there you go.
wow. Thanks, Amazon. That makes up for. We've made this joke before. We have made this joke before, but like, yeah, that makes up for all the the basically crimes against humanity you've committed as one of the world's biggest companies.
If Amazon was a country, the CIA would be invading to restore democracy. Like Amazon, yeah, Amazon. We don't need to go on about Amazon
Yeah.
though.
Restore democracy in quotes.
Yeah. I mean, that was the joke.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, what happens next? Well, Jack gets poisoned.
Yeah, so Oswald Danes is brought onto a TV interview, basically.
Yeah.
The first thing you see of this is him stuffing his face at like the catering table thing.
And he has, like, I think he has a decent justification for this. I mean, the scene is supposed to, I guess, make it look like he's like a terrible person. He's stealing all the
Which he
food, but
is.
he's just like, look. I mean, yeah, he is.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
in this scene, he has justification because he's like, look, I've been in prison for 20 years. All I've eaten is prison food. And, like, I've been in solitary for 6 years, and they feed you even worse food than that. Like, I'm going to take all the food I can get now that I'm on the other side and can actually, like, taste food again.
Right. And he also says that basically nobody would be willing to give him a job, which which is why he's going to take advantage of this food. To which the woman standing there responds by saying, "I hope you choke."
Oof. Scalding hot comeback. He goes on this interview, and the talk show host, I mean, like, we can basically blame this talk show host for Oswald Danes, like, rise
I
to
know.
power because he just like goes in on him way harder and actually makes Danes look sympathetic in like how much of a just a dick he's being to Oswald. Like, does Oswald deserve it? Sure. Probably, sure, but like the way he's going in on him on live TV just almost makes Dane seem sympathetic to me and does make him seem sympathetic to a lot of people in the world, apparently.
Right. What they do is he's really grilling him, and then they put a picture of the little girl that he killed, and he breaks down and he starts crying. And we learned that the girl's name was killed and raped. Shouldn't forget that part. We learned that the little girl's name was Susie, so they really do keep killing Susie.
Wow, that was 10 out of 10 joke and 10 out of 10 execution.
Yeah, kind of feel bad about making that joke actually, but sure. So, right, Danes breaks down, and that's what makes him sort of seem sympathetic to just the populace, I guess.
Yeah, you really get the sense that he's acting here. You really get the sense that he's playing this up for the camera. He does get into an elevator after the interview and say, well, it wasn't an act, but you kind of get the sense that it was.
Right, right.
And we find out, thanks to the trailer for next week, that it is an act. So
I know that was the big like end of the trailer reveal. Was Jack or was someone going like it was all an act or something like that? Which
yeah,
is like,
shocking.
yeah, really? That's what's the biggest surprise? Not like Rex seemingly abandoning the team, or okay, any of the other stuff. Rex is also, I mean, come to think of it, it's like this episode doesn't really endear you to Rex very much either. I mean, the first thing he does is rip a family apart. We didn't really go into it, but that scene where Reese and Gwen and their child are being separated is almost like the scene in Children of Earth, or it almost evokes the same thing with like the kids being bussed away.
Mm-hmm. They bring it back at the end of the episode when they land in America, and she's like, "You left like my kid and my husband behind," and he says something like, "Well, given how this all went, you should probably be glad. Do you really want like your daughter in this mess where we're being chased by the rest of the CIA and they're trying to kill us?"
Right. It was just weird to me that like Rex is supposed to be one of our main characters now, and it's like the first thing you see him do in this episode is just rip Gwen and Reese and whatever their daughter's name was, I forgot, just apart.
There is an interesting kind of I don't know. I think you can draw some interesting parallels between him and Oswald in that they seem to be kind of acting in the same way. They're very gruff. They're not very personable. They're very solo on their own. I'm forgetting the word that I want to use, but that'll have to do. But they're doing it for different reasons. Oswald is doing it because he's just a bad person, and Rex is doing it because he's been basically traumatized by the fact that he should be dead and is now living in constant pain due to the pole going through his chest. So there's an interesting parallel in that like trauma can cause you to act out and be kind of a jerk to some people. And I'm sure Rex is going to have more of like a redemption arc over this season, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of starts here.
Yeah, yeah. We also catch up with Vera. There's a few patients brought into the ICU, and she realizes they're going about it all wrong, so she just shuts everything down and is like, "Look, guys, we need to make some changes here." She says that because nobody's going to die, they don't need to focus on the critical injuries that they otherwise would be focusing on. What they need to do to clear people out of the hospital is get the people with minor injuries out as quickly as possible so they can so they have enough room for everyone.
Right. Because the normal procedure is to treat those with the most severe injuries first, because they're at highest risk for dying or being permanently injured. but now because they can't die, they need to clear the hospital beds for the people who are critically injured by clearing the people who are just there for something, quote, minor, unquote.
Mm-hmm. I think this is kind of happening simultaneously with the interview with Danes, actually, because, yeah, at this point, Danes is... It's basically right after his TV interview. He's like this star. He gets invited onto Oprah. He gets confronted by, I forget her name, something Kitzinger or something like that. Jilly, who she seems like she's going to be somewhat important.
Yeah, at first you're like, oh, she's just going to be someone who's important to the Oswald story, but she later on comes back to interact with Vera.
Right, and you're like, okay, what's her deal? Like, how she seems, she seems to be on the periphery of all of this. Like, what's going to happen with her? And I like that about this episode. It was like, and the last one too. It's like they're setting all the, they're setting all these things in motion, I guess, and we'll all see how it comes together or plays out.
Mm-hmm.
But, both this episode and the last one were more just, getting things on the table.
Right. I think this episode does a great job of taking us from where we were at the end of episode 1, which was we still don't know who's on what side. We don't know if Rex is here to help us or to hurt us. We don't know how Jack's going to fit into all of this. We don't know how everybody fits into this episode where we have, I guess, the canonical Torchwood team for season 4 at the end of the episode. They've assembled. They're on the same side. They know who their enemies are. And Jilly's still kind of the unknown factor, but we have now, by the end of this episode, we went from not knowing anything about what could happen this season to, I think, in my opinion, having a somewhat clear direction on where we might be going.
Yeah, sure.
So we've somehow been dancing around this because this happens well before this point in the episode with Vera throwing the hospital on its head, but Jack gets poisoned by what's her name, Lynn, because she gets a message from Brian to eliminate Jack.
Right.
So she poisons his soda.
Right.
Again, this is important because Jack is now the only mortal man in the world. And the part of the reason why I like this episode is because I think this is a very good way to reinforce that fact and show that Jack is the only mortal man. He can die now. Showing us the stakes of what's to come this season.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the episode is them racing against time to try and make an antidote for the poison from compounds they can find on the airplane.
Right. Rex calls up Vera, and this is sort of they're sort of coordinating to do this.
Yeah, she's at this conference is basically convened on short notice by a bunch of doctors and medical experts to discuss what they're going to do now, what's going on, how actually are people immortal, studying the effects of the things. And she basically busts in the room and goes, okay, new assignment for today. Find out how we can make, what did she say? ETC from compounds you can only find on an airplane 40,000 feet in the air. And I love this premise. I thought it was great. Just like I said, Apollo 13, disaster has struck. You have no access to outside materials. You can only use what you got with you. The Martian too. These are kind of standard tropes now, I guess, in the sci-fi genre. But come 2011, I think this is a very interesting take on it because it's very kind of grounded. You're on an airplane. You've only got airplane equipment, and you got to make an antidote to arsenic. We find out it's arsenic that Jack's been poisoned with.
Yeah, I thought it was boring. I thought this was the most boring part of the episode, and I was just like, oh my god, just let this end.
Well,
yeah,
you're allowed
different
to think
strokes. Some better than others. What? Who said that? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah, you're right. This was great. I'm right. You're right. coming from the guy who said 50 Shades of Grey was a good movie, you know?
And who still thinks that.
Yeah. Fighting from a position of weakness.
Look, I'll die on this hill. And that's important because as Anakin versus Obi-Wan taught us, the person with the higher ground wins. So if you're on a hill, you know, what can you even say?
Except that Obi-Wan killed Darth Maul from the low ground in episode 1. So I think it's just Obi- Sun. I think the point is just that Obi-Wan wins.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, let's do a Sun Tzuian reading of the prequel trilogy. Yeah, because one of the passages right from the Art of War is like whoever has the higher ground wins. So.
Again, I think it's just Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan is just the most OP character in the Star Wars universe. Hot take, but well, I really like this premise. Okay, I really like this premise. I think it's great. I only wish that more of the episode had been dedicated to this instead of dropping the Oswald Danes story plot like in the middle of all of this. I just didn't care about Oswald at all.
Yeah, it really keys of Marinusing it here, where it's just like just stuff for like 75-ish%, and then just the thing you actually want to see, you, and literally you, because I didn't want to see this, but like, yeah. Reminiscent of Keys of Marinus, where like the final 2 episodes were like, oh my god, like this is good.
Look, Keys of Marinus was like one of the very few times Doctor Who got the 6-episode serial right, and I will die on that hill.
Yeah, it was like Keys of Marinus, Genesis of the Daleks, the Sensorites, arguably. Was the Sensorites 6? I can't even remember now.
Yeah, I believe so. I would say so. I think so.
Yes, it was. I just looked it up.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, like you said, the rest of this is sort of just dedicated to curing Jack using the materials they have. They rip apart the airplane, basically, literally.
Yeah, literally. We didn't even mention that they, like, I guess, chartered a commercial flight for this and just bought out all the seats of the poor, the steward, who we haven't even mentioned yet because they've been making a lot of jokes in poor taste with regards to his sexuality.
I was gonna have that be something we discuss at the end. Because, yeah, it's really damn weird.
But they just charter this commercial flight, I guess, and now they're just tearing the floor apart.
There's a point where, not the steward who they make the gay jokes about, but like the other one is like there's some orange tubing in the floor that has material that we need, or it has a liquid that they need, so they decide to cut it open, and the plane spirals out of control and crashes, and they all die. No.
Degreaser fluid. They need degreaser fluid.
Yeah, kind of like what's her name was trying to get John Travolta's character to use in Grease. She was trying to degreaser him, but then it backfired, and she became a greaser at the end.
That was a 5 out of 10 joke with a 3 out of 10 execution.
Never forget that the message behind Grease is that you should... I can't even think right now, to be perfectly honest. You should fit in with the group and succumb to peer pressure, even when you think that it's not in your best interest, or you have doubts about it.
That's why Grease 2 is superior, because it inverts the ending to Grease 1 and shows that you should be your own person. And not succumb to peer pressure, especially from weird greaser biker gangs who are in high school.
Oh yeah, they were in high... Man, it's a high school movie. Phew. I've watched so many bad high school movies that Okay, we don't need to get into that.
No, but I am just going to reference we're going to score tonight again, which I've referenced on this podcast twice, I think. I'm going to make it a third time. Best part of Grease 2, hands down. Anyway.
That'll be in the show notes again. Thanks.
You're welcome. That's exactly why I made that reference again. Just for you, Keon, having to put it in the show notes.
Anyway, it works. They give Jack this concoction that is basically a poison in itself, but Vera tells them that some poisons can be counteracted by having you ingest other poisons or something like that. So
you can counteract the poison by basically introducing a compound that binds to the poison in your bloodstream and basically neutralizes it.
Yeah, what if at the end she called Rex and she was like, oh, yeah, that was just like, I was just kidding. Like, you seriously thought, okay. Never.
I mean, she just sees Rex in the airport and she's like, you remember to put the salt in, right? Like, you put the salt in the...
And Jack
right?
keels
and
over.
he just goes, At that exact moment, he goes, wait, oh! Thank God we weren't put in charge of Torchwood.
Exactly. Look, I mean, it has to be something funnier than salt. Like, it has to be like pixie sticks or something to actually make it work, you know?
It has to be something funny that's on the airplane that they could conceivably have gotten.
Salt is actually what Rex lacks as Jack's vortex manipulator signals.
Oh yeah, he keeps asking Jack, like, what is this? And Jack goes, don't worry about it.
But he eventually reveals that the beeping that is occurring as whenever Rex holds it is indicating that he's low on sodium.
Mm-hmm. So he asks Vera on the phone if he's low on sodium, and he says yes. And I think that happens before Jack gets poisoned. I think that's actually the turning point where Rex starts to realize, like, maybe these guys are actually the good guys.
Yeah, it's the point where I don't know if you thought this was funny, but I definitely did. Like, Lynn, just like, she gets discovered and she just holds out on this story that she did nothing wrong until the last possible minute. Like, they discover the poison and she's just like, yeah, wasn't me.
Well, it's funnier than that. You're really underselling it. They discover the pills, and Gwen goes, "See, poison." And Lynn goes, "You just assume pills are immediately poison when you find them in someone's purse? Wow, that's a pretty weird assumption of you to just always make." And Rex goes, "So they're not poison." Then she goes, "No, I didn't say that. I just said it was a weird assumption to make."
And then even after that, she's like, but I didn't poison him, though. Like, yes, I have this poison with me, but it wasn't me.
It wasn't me, though.
She also gets punched in the face by Gwen. After.
Yeah, that was the best moment in this episode. I don't know if that was the best moment for you, but for me, I was like, yeah, Gwen's back. Let's go.
Different hairstyle, same fists.
Not that Gwen was ever, top... I almost said top 5 Torchwood character before I remembered that there were only really 5 of them anyway. She was never my favorite, but, Lynn had it coming.
Yeah, that actually is right now. So Jack is cured. The effects are almost instantaneous. And
yeah, almost like,
Lynn has been handcuffed at this point, but she escapes. And she confronts them, and this is when Gwen knocks her out. Lynn says that, if Gwen is the best England has to offer, they're going to have to do a lot better, and she just goes, I'm Welsh, and she punches her in the face.
Yeah, she basically dares it to do it. Do it. Hit me, come on, hit me.
She triple dog dares her.
We cut back to Vera at the little makeshift conference, and I think they say doctors in, was it Israel? Somewhere in the Mediterranean / Middle East area of the world, and the name is escaping me at the moment, discovers that they're still aging, and then they confirm it at the conference because they've got someone's arm. and they compare some weird sciencey term to the values like 48 hours ago, and they're like, yeah, so we're still aging. We can't die, but we still age. And then someone makes the reference to a Greek story about a guy named Tithonus. I had to look it up. Who's a guy who wished for immortality but didn't have the foresight to wish for eternal youth at the same time, so he continued to age just forever.
Yeah, some like monkey's paw thing. Slash genie in a bottle. Slash Will Smith in blue makeup.
Look, if they had just let Will Smith do whatever he wanted with that role, it would have been great. But anyway.
God.
Vera leaves at this point and runs into Jilly outside, and Jilly now claims to work at a pharmaceutical company. Before, she claimed to be at a public relations firm when she was giving a card to Oswald. She now claims to be part of a pharmaceutical company. And she talks with Vera for a little bit. She mentions this bill that was passed that like basically made it impossible to reappropriate the drug stockpile in America for like emergencies like this that aren't military related.
Mm-hmm. I like how this scene was all shot. Like it looked pretty. It was pretty visually interesting, I guess, because they're both smoking, and that's actually how Jilly confronts her. She bums a cigarette off of her, but like, yeah, it was just I found it visually interesting because of just the smoke and the shot reverse shot nature of it and stuff. So it was cool.
Yeah, it's also shot from a very low angle, which is interesting because that usually implies that usually shooting something from a low angle like that implies that the person in the scene has power over someone, whether that be the viewer of the audience or if it's a shot reverse shot where one person is shot from below and one from above, the person shot from below has power over the one from above. You know, based on the whole, if you're higher up, you have more power kind of thing.
And Jilly is definitely up to something. We don't know what yet, but definitely up to something.
Yeah. While this is all going on, Esther is like straight up on the run out of the CIA. She sees accidentally someone taking Rex's hard drive out of his computer. And then she sees someone like wiping her computer and she's like, oh shoot, oh God.
Yeah, and props to her. She just bails. She's like, this is not going to end good. So she just leaves.
Yeah, and she's really smart about it too. She takes the ID badge of the person whose desk is next to hers and uses that to escape. Basically, she gets into an elevator. She tells the guy in the elevator to tell, the boss, Brian, basically that she's gone to cybercrimes on the second floor when she actually goes to the basement. She distracts the guard at the gate by actually caring about him.
Wow, brutal.
Am I wrong?
I guess not. I didn't even think of that, but yeah, true.
And she gets free.
She clues Rex into this whole thing too, because they're on the ground by now and they're taking them in, and she sort of covertly hints Rex in onto the fact that the CIA is now out to get them.
She calls him from a different number, and he then does he just answers in ways that are clearly answers to her questions, but to people who don't have the other side of the conversation just sound like standard boilerplate answers. Mm-hmm. Where she's like, yes, that seems to be the case. I think she says you're with them right now, aren't you? And he's like, that seems to be the case. Yep. All right. See you soon. All right. Bye-bye.
He gets out of this, though, by making up some procedure they have to go through or some right that Jack and Gwen now have that they're on American soil, but then reveals that it's all just, quote, bullshit, unquote.
Yeah, because he says, we forgot this procedure, that once they land on American soil, they have all American rights, including the right to unadulterated bullshit. And he just turns around and decks Lynn in the face.
Yeah.
The second time she's been punched in the face in this episode.
Which starts this brawl. He frees Jack and Gwen. They sort of fight their way out, and it looks like he snaps Lynn's neck.
He does. He absolutely
Yeah.
does. Gwen and Jack run away, actually, and leave Rex to deal with this on his own. So he snaps her neck and, I guess, like, just stop, please. And I was like, oh, shoot, she dead. And then I was like, oh, wait, no one can die. Never mind.
Right. They get to their getaway car, the Mini Cooper.
Well, so Rex runs into Jack and Gwen in the airport, and they're like trying to find out what to do, and Rex just goes, you're literally in the departure like baggage claim. You could have walked out the door and been free. Like, what are you doing? He gives Jack his vortex manipulator, and then he basically says something like, you should come with me, and they're like, why? And he's like, well, I've got a car.
Turns to the camera and he's like, I guess we're all on the same side now, huh?
Right.
They meet up with both Vera and Esther outside. Rex gets the drugs. Vera's got the car. They're good to go, except the only thing stopping them is that Lynn is in the middle of the street with her head on backwards.
Yeah. They got the Owen form of immortality and not the Jack form of immortality. That's what my note says here.
She just collapses in the road, though, and they make their escape.
Right. And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah, it ends with Gwen saying, welcome to Torchwood. I completely forgot the context she says that in, but...
Esther says something like, this is crazy, and Gwen says, welcome to Torchwood.
Right. Yeah, we get a very interesting preview. A lot of the scene in it we'd already seen, from the season length preview from last week. But yeah, I mean, looks like things are going to be taking interesting turns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, for all...
Like I said already, I really liked this episode, so...
Yeah, and I mean, for as boring as I found, like, a big chunk of it, like... And for all it did reveal, there are actually still a lot of mysteries left to uncover, so I'm definitely interested. I'm definitely on board with this series so far.
Yeah. No, I agree. Even though we now have, I guess, the core setup of the show, the team together, there's still a lot of mysteries. There were a lot of little kind of subtle things in this episode that all tied together that I liked. Things like Vera meeting Jilly revealing that she works for a company that may or may not have a bunch of pain pills, and then her asking Jilly if she had any on her right now, and then the next we see Vera, she shows up at the airport, Jilly serves as kind of the, like, that's how Vera got the drugs that Rex asked her for at the beginning of the episode, kind of tying all of these plot threads together. Things like that I appreciated throughout the episode.
Yeah, for sure.
The plot of this episode, trying to save Jack on a plane, reminds me of the plot of an episode of Monk, which is the inverse of that situation, which is the finale to season 1. I think Mr. Monk flies on an airplane or something like that. Basically, someone is on the plane trying to, like, kill people who may or may not realize he killed his wife in the airport before they left, using only things that are on the plane to do it surreptitiously. And Monk is trying to figure out if he killed his wife or not.
Mm-hmm.
Good times.
I had a couple different things that I kind of wanted to talk about here. Just a few. Yeah, I mean, one of them I know you also have some stuff on, which is the constant gay jokes that they made at what the steward's expense. But I guess before we get into that, there was an interesting bit with Reese at the beginning of the episode where they specifically call it out, where Reese, like, defends Jack. Gwen, like, says something vaguely, like, offensive towards Jack, and then, like, Reese defends him, and they go, like, whoa, Jack goes, like, whoa, Reese defending me, or something like that? And that was an interesting scene. I don't really think that this is going to go anywhere, but it kind of made me think in the moment that, like, not only is death completely reversed, but, like, maybe more than that is reversed. And we know that this all ties back to Jack because he's now mortal. So I was wondering, like, Reese's demeanor towards Jack, which has up until now been mostly hostile, or at least unfriendly, is now changed. So maybe there's something more to this that we're not fully seeing yet. I don't really think that that's going to be the case, but interesting to think about, I guess.
Interesting to think about, and I remember that scene too, because Reese basically says something like, yeah, all right, so I dislike Jack, but he's basically, but I'm not unfair. And like the fact that he can die now, that's like not a coincidence, and I don't think like it's his fault either. Like, why would he choose to make himself immortal to be able to die like right at this moment? So yeah, I'm glad you brought that scene up, because we did completely skip that when we were talking about Rex sending Reese away at the beginning, when we talked about Rex canining Reese. I guess that's just a term now that Keon coined before recording.
Yep, well, you know me, so... Yeah, I mean, the other thing I kind of wanted to touch on here was, yeah, the weird and just kind of in bad taste gay jokes that they made at the steward's expense. He had a name, I forgot what it was, but I'll look it up right now. Oh, it was Danny. It was Danny.
Yeah,
Danny. There's just a lot of, like... I don't even know how you would describe it, but it's just like they constantly make jokes at his expense, and the idea behind the joke is that he's gay, which he continually says that he's not. And yeah, right. I don't know, it just comes across as weird to me that would even be in the episode.
I think the first time it happens when Rex makes a joke about it, it's in bad taste, because you shouldn't assume people's sexual orientation like that, especially if you're going to make a comment that could be interpreted as derogatory. But I think they kind of get away with it, because they've shown that Rex is a little bit of a dick. It gets weird when it's Gwen like basically insisting that he's gay, and I think that like, to me, why it's a little weird is because if somebody tells you their sexual orientation, I think that you should take them at their word. Like when he says to Rex after the first joke, like, no, I'm not, I'm straight, like they should just take that as a given. So it was weird for then Gwen to like make another joke about it. And then actually I think Gwen makes the third joke about it, because it's the third joke where the guy, where Danny is like, okay, it was just one time, which like, again, people choose to identify their sexual orientation using whatever words they would like to. And I think the reason to me why the jokes are just so weird is because they're not just taking his self-identification at face value, especially given like how open Torchwood has been in portraying non-heterosexual relationships over the past 3 seasons. It's been like remarkably progressive on that front. So for this season to make jokes at the expense of someone who claims to be straight, says they're straight, and may or may not have had like difficulty or questioning feelings that he doesn't know how to resolve yet, or confusing feelings, like to make jokes at that character's expense given the history of the show is especially weird in my opinion.
Yeah, and it all just comes across in like the wrong way completely. And yeah, it's just weird.
It comes off as very mean-spirited, not just like from the characters in the show. It comes off as like the show being mean-spirited almost. Which is also why it feels weird. Like if it was just, I don't know, if it was just Oswald Danes being a jerk because he's a pedophile and a murderer, like, okay, he's a terrible person. It's in line with his character, I guess. But
yeah, and I probably wouldn't have even noticed it or brought it up if it was just the one thing with Rex at the beginning. But yeah, it is. It's repeated, right. And it's just really weird given basically everything you just said.
Yeah, in fact, I the only note I had on it originally was just going, well, that's a weird joke, like when Rex made it. And then like when it kept happening, I was like, why are we doing this?
Yeah, it's like when someone is telling a joke that's obviously not funny and they just double down because there's no way out. Not that I would know. Not
that I would know.
Except there is a way out in this case, which is just, take it out of the draft or whatever. So, yeah.
Don't film it. That's the other thing. There's so many steps in the process. It gets written, it gets filmed, and then it gets edited. And like at any point, they could have taken it out. So.
And I mean, that's all I had though about it. I didn't have any other things that I wanted to talk about here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I talked about what I wanted to talk about. I talked about why I liked this episode, so I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. Which means we can go on to our segments.
And the new one that we are, I guess, introducing.
Right. Which doesn't have a brilliant name yet, but it's related to our British part of America joke that originated many years ago on Trust Your Doctor, when Perry, even before I think Perry joined the show, we had the joke about the American part of, or the British part of America, because people or actors on the show would claim to be American and have like a very British tinted American accent, or like have an American accent but then use Britishisms like lift instead of elevator.
So we'll be identifying some of those that we notice.
Yeah, seems relevant because this is a co-production with an American network, so it's not solely British writers and British creatives, but a lot of British writers and creators working on this show for an American audience.
Right. One of the more, I guess, linguistic ones that I noticed right away in the episode, which was written by an American writer, but Vera at one point this isn't exactly what it is, but she's like, Rex asks her if they have painkillers or something, and she's like, yes, we have, in fact. And it's like, that's not, Americans wouldn't say that. You just say like, yes, we do. Well, that's the thing is like, you know, British people actually repeat the verb in situations like that, whereas Americans just say like, yeah, we do. Mm-hmm. Or it's just, everything is just do.
Yeah, I didn't really come up with a good one for this week because honestly I wasn't paying attention to it when I was watching, so...
Yeah, and hopefully the show supplies us with like better ones than just like little linguistic oddities.
Yeah, linguistic oddities can be interesting though. There's an interesting one with South African English where I think I've explained this on the podcast before, but in place of the word should, we would say must. So if you were to ask like your friend, like, should I come and get you? Like if they're having some sort of issue, like, should I come and get you? You'd be very hard pressed to find, at least anybody I knew in South Africa would say that. Most people would actually say like, must I come and get you? Which is not in like an aggressive, like, must I come get you, you piece of garbage, but like, just like, must I come get you? Which is like, I slip into that sometimes when I'm texting people and they'll be like, are you like upset? And I'm like, no, that's just like, that's just a weird linguistic like thing. So yeah, hopefully we get more than just that, but we'll see. I think we'll get some interesting things relating to like how politics in America works coming up. Just a hunch.
We're already getting the sort of shall I I would love to contribute to, your glorious cultural hegemony by drinking a cola. I guess they couldn't name drop Coke.
Oh, geez. There is kind of the like weird interpretation that the CIA is some sort of unilateral, like unlimited God mode intelligence agency. Because we didn't even mention how they also try to frame Esther and Rex by putting money in their accounts, and then they're going to like kill them or send them off to China or something. And this is interesting because, and maybe not a lot of people know this outside of the US, but the CIA is actually like, it's illegal for the CIA to operate within American borders. They're not allowed to do anything within American borders. That's strictly under the jurisdiction of the FBI. So for them to be chasing Esther and Rex like across town in like black SUVs, that's like not allowed for the CIA to do that like legally. There's a very clear distinction in American law that the CIA is I completely blanked on the word I was going to use now. external and the FBI is
Right.
internal.
I think it's kind of. I think in the UK it's MI5 and MI6 are the equivalent of the FBI and the CIA.
Yeah. I don't know how, like, if the distinction between those two is as strong as it is between the FBI and the CIA in America, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll look it up and put it in the show notes.
Seven Deadly Sins of Gwen. Well, she commits wrath again this week by just decking Lynn in the
And just
face.
yelling at everyone.
Yeah, just generally yelling every one of her lines
Yeah.
this week.
Yeah.
She kind of commits greed, I think, by wanting it all, by wanting to be free on
Yeah.
the
How
plane
dare you?
after they save Jack.
How dare you want basic human rights?
What is that quote? God, I just read it today and I can't even remember who said it, but that's like the second worst prison is like one where you can see the walls and you've got nothing to do, and the worst prison is the one where you can't see any walls and you believe that you're free or something like that.
Patrick McGowan, 1968 or whatever. Yeah.
It does sound very Patrick McGowan-y, but it wasn't him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know who said that or what the actual quote is or anything about it.
Seeing if I can Google it.
He sounds like sort of, I don't know, Foucaultian or something like that.
Shoot, I can't find it. Well, I'll look for it off recording and put it in the show notes. Wow, Dylan contributing to the show notes for once.
I
Shocking.
mean, you do occasionally.
It's true. Any other sins?
I don't think I had any. I can't think of any others that she committed. No, pride, I guess. I mean, she goes, "I'm Welsh," and then just decks Lynn in the face. So, yeah, that's
Yeah, I
pretty
guess
prideful, actually.
Okay, I guess that's pride. Yeah, I guess that's pride. So how will this affect Jack? How much will this affect Jack? Should it affect Jack?
Yes, to all of those. Yeah, I mean, this is probably in the top 5 like most effective things, right? Like Jack almost dies. That's a pretty big effect.
Yeah, I mean, he comes pretty close to dying. I mean, he's seizing basically by the time they inject the antidote into him. And I can't imagine him taking that lightly moving forward.
No, yeah.
But I guess we'll see. As we always say, literally every time. We'll do Britain's, Britain in quotes, Britain's, really America's 10 actors. Because I think we both looked up, I guess actually one of the people I looked up was Australian.
Guess we can't include them that. No, I'm just kidding.
I guess I'll go first. I think you went first last week, so I'll go first.
All right.
So, the first person I looked up is Deishan Lockman, who I actually recognized from Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but she was also in Altered Carbon, which I watched. And she's apparently been in quite a few things that are kind of big TV shows here in America. The 100, Neighbors, The Last Ship. She was on Dollhouse, which was Joss Whedon's. I believe that was Joss Whedon's show, or was that... Who is the other person I'm thinking of now? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was Joss Whedon. I just looked
Joss
it up.
Whedon's, right? Okay, yeah. So that's... Oh, and apparently she's in the new Jurassic World movie, Jurassic World Dominion, which comes out this year, I want to say, 2021. Although I'm not sure on that because COVID has thrown movie release dates completely out of whack and out of sync.
Yeah, I had no idea. Well, anyway, we also have Arlene Tour playing. What is? Oh no, who did she play? Oh, Vera Juarez. She plays Vera Juarez. And yeah, she doesn't have too many credits. I'm just looking on IMDb right now. She's been in 14 different things, it looks like, as well as playing herself on Top Gear USA. Huh. Yeah, she's just been in a lot of, I guess, American TV shows. Grey's Anatomy, Crash, Lie to Me, South Beach. I don't really know what that is. Teenage Bounty Hunters and Assassin's Vow in 2020. Those sound interesting. Sound very. What was that movie that the Wachowskis produced? It was like. Ninja Assassin. That's what I was talking. Yeah, the Wachowskis produced this like movie in like 2008 or 9 called Ninja Assassin, which is like, yeah, all right, that's. You can just guess. You can just envision how over the top it is just from the name itself.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But yeah, that's her. That's Arlene Tour.
So the next person I looked up is Wayne Knight as Brian Friedkin. As I mentioned earlier, most famously, I guess, known either for his role as Newman in Seinfeld or as Dennis Nedry in Jurassic Park. But he's actually been in a lot. Basic Instinct, Tarzan. I didn't write down who he voiced in Tarzan. Toy Story 2, he plays Al. Kung Fu Panda and Kung Fu Panda 3. Curb Your Enthusiasm, he appears in an episode as himself. Law and Order SVU, Dirty Dancing. I remember seeing him in that movie. He voices someone in the Harley Quinn animated show that's going out right now on HBO. He was in an episode of The Twilight Zone, apparently. Robot Chicken Star Wars, and the Coen Brothers movie Hail Caesar. And those are just the ones I recognized. He is quite a prolific actor.
Right. Well, I don't know why I looked this person up, but I looked up Marina Benedict, who plays the other agent that Esther talks to a bunch. And given the events of this episode, just kind of now realizing that she's probably not going to be that main of a character, but I looked her up, so why not? She was in this episode and the last one, so I kind of thought that she would be, in this for the long haul, but I guess that's probably not going to be true now. Anyway, she has like 33 credits. She's been in a bunch of stuff, I guess. She was in Nikki. I don't know what that is, but it looks like it was a TV show in the early aughts. It just looks like she's been in a bunch of not very famous American shows. Angel, Without a Trace, Ghost Whisperer. I haven't really heard of any of these. Oh,
Was Angel the spin-off of Dollhouse, or was it the other way around?
Ooh, I don't know. I guess I can find out.
I'm Googling it right now. Oh, no, Angel was a spin-off of Buffy. I knew it was a spin-off of something.
Right,
Angel was the spin-off of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Another Joss Whedon property, which is why I got it confused.
Yeah, wasn't Angel that one they made at the same time? Like, it got its spin-off, at the same time that it was itself going out. Buffy, that is. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
She was also on Desperate Housewives. And CSI Miami. And True Blood. And Burn Notice.
Nice.
And Bones.
You got any more?
Criminal Minds.
Okay.
Flesh and Bone. Prison Break. Gotham. She's been in a lot of stuff, actually.
Just keep going.
That's it.
Just keep going.
There's more,
going.
but
okay.
Yeah, those are the bigger ones.
Those are the only two I looked up.
I just looked up Lauren Ambrose right now, stealing either my or your thunder. Whoever would have looked it up next week if I didn't do it right now.
Okay, go.
The State. That was her first role in 1995 TV series. She played audience member in episode 4, uncredited.
Great.
Party of Five in 1999. Psycho Beach Party in 2000. That's another Ninja Assassin-esque name. Oh, she was in 6 Feet Under in 2001. Or 2005, rather. I don't know what that is, but she was in it.
You said it like you knew what it was.
She was in Torchwood, believe it or not. No, okay. Wow, I'm just killing it here.
Yeah, you're just... I'm not
She
gonna
was
save
in
you
the
from this.
TV
You're on your own, bud.
miniseries Coma. She was in Robot Chicken in 2013. Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Dig, the TV series in 2015. And Servant.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that is, but it's ongoing. Oh, and she was in The X-Files, 2018. 2016 through 2018.
The X-Files is something that, like, I feel like we have to cover at least one season for Inevitable at some point.
Yeah, get a little Jose Chung in there.
Well, we can't claim to be a classic sci-fi podcast and not cover, like, one of the classic sci-fi series, right?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that there was a, that they brought it back, or did...
Yeah. They did something weird with it. They revived it, and it wasn't a reboot, it was like a sequel, but it was kind of like weirdly done, what I heard, but I haven't watched any X-Files, so I don't actually know.
Yeah, I've only watched that one episode, Jose Chung, which is like I think it's one of the more famous ones, like famous episodes, just because of how labyrinthine the plot of it is. They're all like that.
I love
but
TV shows that are very ambitious in how much plot they can fit into 45 minutes. Just wrap it up in the final 3 seconds at the end.
I know, yeah, Sapphire and Steel style. Introduce new plot points 4 minutes before the end of the entire show.
Look, but see, Sapphire and Steel got away with that because it wasn't the only time that they, like, it wasn't the only part of the episode where they just dumped new stuff into the episode. They were continuously, for 2 solid hours of content, just dumping new things into the episode. For it to continue 4 minutes before the episode ended is just like, yes, Sapphire and Steel.
Yeah, they had PJ Hammond behind them. They could get away with that stuff.
Exactly. Well, I am going to take us away from that conversation to the email I have this week. I guess it's technically 2 emails, sort of, but the second one is a postscript to the first email. So the first email is, "Hey guys, I thought it was funny when you said 7 was a good place to end, especially given that Classic Who ended with the 7th Doctor. Anyway, that's all I had to say this time. Cheers. 7 with a T. P.S. Actually, there was something else I wanted to mention. Lol. I thought it was interesting how it was brought up that people think Frobisher is a good man. What's a question the 12th Doctor asked? Am I a good man? Weird.
Whoa.
X-Files. No. Bringing it back. I'm bringing it. I know I said I was taking us away, but I lied. We're going back.
They should bring Caecilius into the X-Files, but like set it in like in the time when like Rome was reckoning with Christianity, and like have it
X-Files,
and then
Rome.
they can bring it like can tie in the X, where it's like because Christians would always put the
10?
X in their name to signify that they're Christian, and then they can end it with him like becoming Caecilius or something. I don't know. Okay. Going on the crusade. Okay, no, I don't know.
Jeez.
You didn't think you were going to be hearing about the Crusades in this podcast episode?
No. Well, you can't really say we couldn't hear about the Crusades on this podcast since we literally talked about the Crusades in the episode on the Crusades. Right. Remember that episode, that lost episode that we watched recons of?
I completely forgot that one existed. Maybe that's the most forgettable episode of Doctor Who ever, or story.
I did want to mention that thanks for bringing up that Classic Who ended with 7, and thanks for implicitly accidentally reminding me of something that we meaning Keon and I both like only remembered last week after we finished recording. We were like, oh yeah, remember when we did the 7 worst episodes of Classic Who, 1 per Doctor? And remember how we said we were going to do the 7 best in our opinion episodes, like when we finished Torchwood, and we had completely forgotten about that. but it's back on the menu, boys. We remember again, so it's back. It's. Don't worry. We're gonna figure that out soon.
Would have honestly been really funny if we had just forgotten about it and we put ourselves through the 7 episodes we considered the worst for nothing. No payoff, just no resolution to that.
You know what I think would be interesting, because I'm just thinking of this now. We were having this discussion that when we came up with that plan, that we didn't know what 7 episodes we would choose, because you and I like different episodes for some of them. But it might be fun to have some audience interaction. We could put a poll up on Twitter or something between Keon and I will each nominate our favorite episode of each of the Doctors, and we'll have a face-off between the two for each Doctor, and whatever wins is what we'll Redux cover. Maybe that could be kind of fun, but I guess we'll see.
Well, we all had a couple comments on Facebook this week. So we had one from Alex. This was on our episode on Children of Earth, Day 5. It's a pretty short one, so Alex just goes, "You now understand what I've been biting my tongue about since you began Torchwood." Yep.
Nice.
We also have a much longer comment from RG. So we've actually been neglecting to mention this on the podcast recently, but we started a blog not too long ago, so we have a bunch of posts on there already. We do one a week. And I just put up a post. It won't be the most recent one when this goes out. It actually isn't the most recent one when we're recording it. But a couple weeks ago I put up a post. Just some of my thoughts on Revolution of the Daleks. It's sort of, it's an essay, I guess. I don't know. But RG sort of responded to that. So as we do with all the comments, I guess I'll just read that one out. So RG goes, "That was a beautiful read. I didn't see who wrote this piece until I finished it. I forgot to look before reading it. I kept thinking, this sounds like Keon. Sure enough, it was. I loved Revolution of the Daleks. I have enjoyed most of what seasons 11 and 12 have had on offer. The ending with Ryan and Graham and Grace was a wonderful way to round off their stories. Although Torchwood fans have now gone into overdrive speculating that they are about to be furnished with new Torchwood, with Ryan and Graham front and center. I am skeptical about this. I was very glad to see that Ryan still can't ride a bike. How very respectful of those who have dyspraxia. God, the story didn't magically cure him, in quotes. I thought Tossin Cole did some of his best work in Revolution. The way Ryan spoke with the Doctor was acted perfectly, respectful but also fed up. I thought the discussion between Jack and Yaz was insightful. Jack knows what it is like to be left behind. It is now something that he has brought to the forefront of Yaz's mind. Why don't people remember the Daleks? I'm sure, and the reason she poses that question is because that was a question that I posed and framed my entire blog post around for this, So why don't people remember the Daleks? I'm sure that sometime during the 10th Doctor story, he explains that people just sort of rationalize themselves out of things they don't understand. Those weren't really Christmas mannequins shooting at us. Someone was just playing a prank. Or a trick, sorry. Cybermen, what are those? They're just Redditors making up outlandish rumors. The Cube's cute little retro novelty gifts that meant about as much as a Slinky. Who is the timeless child? You know what? It's a delicious mystery to me. I enjoy my Doctor Who served with a large helping of I don't know. I never really worried that much about continuity. I think it can destroy fandom. Arguments about fiction, no thanks. I have better things to do. It's a show, not a historical reenactment. As long as it's entertaining, I'm happy. Chris North can chew the scenery up all day as that makes me happy. Watching Harriet Walter act makes me happy. She's terrific in Killing Eve. Captain Jack and Yaz make me happy. Dogs make me happy. The 13th Doctor with longer hair and a different colored t-shirt make me happy. Also, Jodie getting to do lots of different things in one episode makes me happy. Most of all, the way that the show currently tells stories makes me happy. I find it engaging and intriguing. Can't wait for more. I can't either, yeah. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said it, but the current era of Doctor Who is my favorite ever, and really glad to hear that you're also enjoying it, RG.
Yeah, glad to hear that you're enjoying it, RG. It's always good to hear from you. And it was a good blog post. I remember admittedly skimming it because this week was a little difficult for me to get even my actual work done. So, But I agree. Cool post. Nice thoughts, Archie. And I too am looking forward to more from the 13th Doctor.
We also have another, so the actual most recent blog post we have at the time of this recording is Dylan's first little look into something that we've been talking about for a long time, ever since we finished watching oh my god, ever since we we finished watching The Prisoner on Inevitable.
We're falling apart at the seams.
Don't worry, we're almost done here. So, there's a Prisoner video game from 1980 for the Apple II computer, and that's the topic of Dylan's most recent blog post on our blog. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to check it out, because it's a really interesting video game that's doing a lot of interesting things, and we're going to have more posts about it as well. But we got a comment on it on Twitter. So I don't know this person's actual name, but their handle is Danny Danger Oz. Says, fascinating little article. Thank you. Can't wait until part 2.
Nice. Well, me either, because part 2 hasn't been written yet when we're recording this. So, yeah, we'll see. It's an interesting video game. Part 1 just introduces what the video game is. Part 2 is going to be kind of a detailed overview of my playthrough of the game, which I've started, but I haven't gotten very far into it yet, because the controls are kind of bonkers. So it's going to take some getting used to.
Yeah, and I was looking up more about it because I was actually, once I read through your post, I was like, wow, this is actually really fascinating. So I looked it up, and like the game apparently switches control schemes like a bunch of times midway through and doesn't tell you, and it's really weird.
Great, I can't wait. Yeah, I'm trying to go into the game like as blind as possible, so I haven't looked up any of that, so I guess we'll see what happens when I get there, since if the game doesn't tell you, I mean, it's not like I'm going to know anyway, so jeez. I find it weird that the same company remade the game like 3 years after it came out, like, didn't even let the striking while the iron is hot there.
Yeah. But they remade it into like a first-person maze thing, which is weird.
Yeah, weird. Anyway, go read the blog post if you want to read more. And I think that brings us to the end of this episode. So if you would like to email us, you can reach us at thedoctor@decadvegetable.com. Questions, comments, concerns, angry rants, love letters. Your thoughts on Torchwood, Miracle Day, Episode 2. You can find us on YouTube at Decade Vegetable. Find us on Apple Podcasts and everywhere you get your podcasts at Trust Your Doctor. Be sure to leave a rating if you like the show.
Check us out on Facebook, Trust Your Doctor. Like us on Facebook. Also check us out on Twitter at TYD Podcast and follow us on Twitter. And next time we're going to be continuing on with Dead of Night. But until then, the end.